Hey there, I am Cai Graham and I am here in the Eden Room to offer you a bit of parental support about parenting, how you and your teenagers are navigating adolescence. And this month we are talking about the empty nest. When you say that, it automatically springs up idea of kids going back to or going to university. And it's not just that though, it's kids might be leaving home, kids might be going to live with a different parent, kids might be going to boarding school, whatever it is. All of which I have experienced, and so I know a thing or two about this. My kids both left home within a fortnight of each other, and it turned my world upside down. So it's hard. Now, don't get me wrong, some parents can't wait to see the back of their kids, and that's just as normal, so don't beat yourself up. Some people dread it and hate it, and some people just think, oh my gosh, freedom, thank goodness for that. So whatever you are feeling, it's okay. But I think the thing is to acknowledge that you are now sort of really doing long distance parenting, which is a sort of different way of operating really. And so it's getting to grips with that and feeling comfortable with that. So really what I want to do is give you a couple of pointers in how to deal with long distance parenting, but also just at the end of this I'm going to talk about looking after the kids that are still at home, because I remember when my brother left for boarding school, and I kid you not, literally overnight my childhood, even though it was a lovely childhood, my childhood turned from colour to black and white because I'd lost my partner in crime. So we have to remember that you might be terribly upset that you've sort of lost one child, or they've gone to pastures new, but you have to remember that there are some kids still at home. Anyway, the main thing is your child that has left home for whatever reason. Let's just use the university example. But what's worth remembering and what is so important is before they go, I would suggest that you agree with your child a predetermined time for you to contact them. So something along the lines, what we really want to do is keep the lines of communication open. Just because they're not in the next door room, just because they're not coming in from school every day, doesn't mean that you have to sever all ties. It's actually quite important to keep them in your, on your radar. I would suggest, thank goodness. I mean, we talk about social media and how awful it is. Hurrah for communication, because it allows us parents to be able to communicate with our kids without breathing down their necks. I remember when my son, he went to the Himalayas on a sort of, I think it was a 2-month trip or something like that. And suddenly my phone pinged and it was, are you awake? And he was in some internet cafe. And so we were able to chat for about 5 minutes. Thank goodness for technology is what I say. So for you, I would suggest arranging with your child. Now, you might not know until they get their timetable, but have a pre-arranged time for you to be able to speak to them, and make it a Zoom call or a Skype or a FaceTime or whatever it is, so that you can see the whites of their eyes, because text is very deceiving, and they can pretend that everything's fine, or be rather monosyllabic and you can't read between the lines. So allow them sort of the space that they need to learn and to grow, but just keep them close enough so you can sort of communicate with them, and so you can see the whites of their eyes. And you'll look at them, oh God, they're hungover or whatever. That's okay. But there are some times, and when you get the visual, I've had this happen to me a number of times, where you suddenly think, oh no, they're not okay. And you can see that in video a lot easier than sort of texting. And it could be, listen, let's do it every, it's not going to be a Saturday night, let's face it, but it could be Wednesday after sport, or it could be Sunday morning, make it later, sort of Sunday afternoon or evening or something, just to get them to the end of the weekend and the start of the new sort of, the new week. But just so you are able to chat to them and reassure them without breathing down their necks. And the thing is if this is predetermined, hurrah, because they are able to realise, oh no, they're not checking up on me, we agreed to do this. So it's going to be a different way of doing it. It is, believe me, it is going to be harder for you because they've sort of got a whole new world opening up for them. One thing I would suggest, if you are sort of dealing with students, there is such a thing as freshers' flu, which is when they sort of crash and burn a week after, or after Freshers' Week, because they've been partying hard. It's a shock to their system. They're probably surviving on no sleep. They certainly won't be filling their bodies with sort of healthy meals and stuff. They'll be surviving on booze, fresh air, and probably the odd McDonald's. And so their body will be craving nourishment and sleep and rest, and they won't be giving it. So it's quite normal for your child to have a wobble after this, because then it's suddenly, oh, the big wide world, my body isn't coping, I can't stand this, I'm not cut out for it. The answer is yes, they are. They need to practice self-care. So just expect that, and then you won't be disappointed. Do you know what I mean? If they are feeling a little bit homesick, listen. It's not really about you, so just chat to them and hear what's going on. Oh, I'm so sad, it's awful to hear you having an awful time. No, don't need to hear that. It's just get them into a more positive frame of mind, which helps with routine, which helps with socializing. So, get them to join clubs, get them to, sort of engage in uni life, because that's what they need to do to get them over, and invariably, and if they're in boarding school, this is all handed to them on a plate. Their life is regimented for, the best part of the first term. But just make sure they get into a routine and make sure they are practicing self-care so they know to look after themselves, and always be at the end of a phone. But don't forget, just have that predetermined discussion with them so that they know, oh right, yeah, it's 7 o'clock on a Sunday and I'm going to chat to mum or dad or both or whoever. I have found, actually not being funny, that with my son especially, speaking not two parents together, because otherwise you end up just peering at them. When I speak to my kids, because they now they're 28 and 26, they no longer live with me any longer, or live with us. Doing it separately. All right, well, Dad will speak to you and I'll catch up afterwards. He's on the phone, he's on the Zoom call for an hour each time, because we sort of go down a rabbit warren. But when you're just peering at them, they're not really very interested in communicating. Keep the lines of communication open. It's a given that they've got all the right things. Go and Google what you need to kit your child out for university, and go and Google, so there's a lot of stuff available. So I don't really want to sort of teach Granny how to suck eggs. But it's just remembering that even though they have flown the nest, it's important to let them know that they're still, you're still their safety net. Okay, but also you've got your darling little ones at home who might have lost their partner in crime like I did, who might be feeling, actually I felt under the microscope as well. Suddenly the attention from my parents was all focused on me, which was really unnerving. Usually I used to have my brother to share the load. So give them the space. They might be missing their sibling hugely. So maybe they want to find a time when they can just sort of touch base with their sibling, or they might be absolutely thrilled to bits because they've got the room to themselves, or the remote to themselves, or the Xbox to themselves. They could be thriving. They could be absolutely thrilled to bits, and can't wait to see the back of them. So all of this is okay. It's all different, it's all family life, but it's just noticing the nuances, it's noticing the changes. You might see that your child that's stuck at home, that sounds so bad, doesn't it? Your child that's still at home, behaviour might have changed. They're trying to readjust, the sails, and that's totally okay. So maybe a tiny bit more compassion and a little bit more kindness. But also teaching them that life goes on, so they can't avoid the chores, or they can't avoid homework or whatever. Not every excuse is a valid one, but just acknowledge that while someone has left the home, maybe even if it's temporarily, Those at home are going to have to readjust. So maybe keep the routine going. Keep the family movie nights, or make sure you speak family meals a bit more often, or whatever it is. Just being mindful that, I just miss so much, and the other child is stuck at home, sort of going, well, thanks a lot, what about me, I'm still here. And it's acknowledging that and sort of going, right, well, how can we still make this fun? How can we still, do that? Does that make sense? So good luck. And communicate. That's all you need to do. Keep those lines of communication open, and you're going to be absolutely fine. And enjoy the fact that the fridge is slightly fuller. Enjoy the fact that, you might have the hands on the remote. Enjoy the fact that there's probably less laundry. All of this is okay. This is just another milestone in family life. So much love. And don't forget, if you need to sort of get in contact with me, by all means, through either the Eden Room, or catch me on Instagram, or I'm on Facebook as well. That's cool. Buy this thing, my book. There's a lot of good stuff in there for you. But catch you next month at the Eden Room. Thanks so much.